Welcome back to Returning Retro. I'm glad you're here because boy, do I have a treat for you today. I had the exquisite opportunity to sit down with the team from Sidephone and talk to them about the project, get to know a little bit about each of them individually. We talk about what Sidephone is, why it's potentially important, their motivations behind the project as a whole, where they would like the project to go long term, and I am excited for it. Sidephone is a new smartphone with very retro features that I think is perfectly in line with what we're doing here at Returning Retro. So I'm going to go ahead and put the timestamps here. So if you are more interested in certain parts of the discussion, as you can see below, it's a long one, but it's really good. So I encourage you to listen to the whole thing if you can. However, if you're mostly curious about the specifics of Sidephone as they exist currently, feel free to jump there to that last chapter of the video, and that'll give you more or less the details of how it is and the current state of the project as a whole. But without further delay, let's jump right into it and describe why I feel it's important for those of us with this digital minimalism, digital deliberatism, digital intentionalism mindset to come together, to build off of each other, to share our successes, to give ideas to each other. Again, right in the line with what the team over at Sidephone are doing. So please join me for my discussion with Chris and Sebastian from Team Sidephone. And so I thought, hey, I kind of have a little bit of a different take on this. My take was more of, instead of a digital minimism, like as little digital influence in your life whatsoever, I come at it from more of a using what is out there deliberately and don't become dependent on it. Make it more of a tool than a crutch, I guess, is one way you could sort of look at it. And that's kind of where I decided to start my own thing, Returning Retro, because for me, in the early 2000s, somewhere around 2007, was when consumer technology really became exciting. It was kind of pinnacle BlackBerry, but then you also had iPhone that was just around the corner. And you had a couple of years where you had the technology without all of the baggage of social media and everything, the always on mentality that we kind of are existing in today. And I thought, what if we could go back to that? And so that was where I kind of came up to this idea of Returning Retro. And then I sat on it for like almost a year. And then I had my conversation with Chris, and he was like, no, you should do it. You should start recording. It'll be awesome. Go for it. And he gave me the Space Jam reference, like the Michael's secret stuff, Chris's secret stuff. It gave me the oomph to actually start. And so, yeah, that's kind of what's got me to here. But obviously going forward, my whole intention behind it is to either build a community or create a resource that people could use that maybe are feeling the same way, that have no idea what to do. They're like, I don't like this. I don't like what this is doing to my life. I don't like where society has placed me in this tech bubble where I feel so isolated and almost feel like I have to be this way. Because that's the thing, is it's not just the needless dependence, but it's also kind of forced on you. Anyway, I don't want to talk about me, my friends. I want to talk about you guys and Sidephone. I am happy to just talk about whatever you guys want to discuss. So maybe Chris.
Hey Jake, man, I'm nervous. That's funny. I didn't expect to be nervous, or I guess in the context of the book that I've been reading lately, anxious. That's probably the best way to describe it. What you had mentioned about starting the first video and going through it, I'm very much an enabler in my friend circle. So for better, for worse, I um, definitely just honored to have given you that push. And also the videos that you've created, I've been watching them, and they're incredible. Keep it up. And I think the conversations you're having are so important. And I'm just honored to be here to have one with you, genuinely. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you in particular is initially I thought we would be uh, growing together. I know the platform that you're creating is something that's starting off. I mean, Sidephone's very much in the same position. We haven't had the product launch yet. It's very much in the works, but I think you and I are at the perfect point to have these regular conversations, and honestly, in terms of Sebastian as well, some of the questions that I think we're going to get into today, I haven't even heard from Sebastian as well. So this is just such a perfect melting pot of a bunch of, I would say, different minds who have been hovering around a similar topic that haven't fully had the opportunity and the space to discuss it yet. And I think beautiful things are going to come from this conversation. And Sidephone will become a better product because of it. And the community that we all create is going to become stronger as well. So I'm super excited. Can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah, I was actually, I appreciate those words, Chris. I mean, you really did give me that push off the ledge for better. It's for better.
Yeah.
But I would be through. Yeah, let's maybe jump into some introductions a little bit. Sebastian, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to hear a little bit of your story. I don't even want to say anything that I know about you because I would love to hear it from you sort of fresh. And then yeah, the same from Chris. Basically, I would be curious, and I think the viewers would be curious to a little bit about yourself, but specifically what brought you here to talk to me about returning retro, and what led you to that point so far.
Yeah, like everything that or as short as possible led up to this whole thing. Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, I got to think of where to start. Because probably, I mean, it starts with my own sort of digital minimalism journey, I guess. Which I mean, not to make it too personal right out of the gate, right out of the gate, but I remember, like for me, the actual pivotal moment, like I remember where I was like, ooh, technology phones might be a problem specifically for me. So I'm part of I'm just throwing stuff out here that Chris doesn't even know too. Yeah, you're gonna get a real kick out of this, Chris, because we've been working together for a couple months now, but there's still like a lot of stuff. So I'm part of a pretty big family, which I think has been confusing for Chris because I'll keep mentioning my brothers. I have four brothers and four sisters. I'm one of nine kids.
Wow, awesome.
I'm on the older end of it, but yeah, it's like I keep saying like, oh, it's my brother's birthday. It's my other brother's birthday. And I feel like in the back of Chris's mind, he's like, he's either making all this up, or there's like a lot, there's stuff happening. But yeah, and I remember I probably was 16 or 17, which is right about when I had a smartphone for a little while. I think I'm probably the youngest one in this call. But a maybe 6 months before this particular date, I had my smartphone maybe a year. One of my youngest sisters had been diagnosed with an inoperable stomach tumor. Like she had seized out one day. I was there. It was pretty crazy. They're like, we actually can't do anything about this. We don't know if she's fine now. She's fine now. I mean, it's still there, but it's all pretty good. But and one day I was just in my bed on my phone as you would expect a teenager to do. My mom came into my room. She was like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like you have us, this is right after we'd heard the diagnosis, all this." She's like, if you have a free moment, go read, because she was like 3 or 4 years old at the time. She's like, go read your sister a story. We don't know how long she's going to be here. We don't like that. And that really did stick with me. I was like, oh shoot. Like what, I think I was scrolling Twitter and like, what, how is this more important to me? Or how have I become so attached to this that my own sister's, downstairs, I'm not making an effort to communicate her there anyway when she has this condition. That was, and it was a few years later, after college, and then even after that, it's my T stuff for a while, where I had been experimenting with various other dumb phone products. My uncle too, who's always kind of been a mentor to me, he had made the move he had tried a couple different products too, and he's like, man, yeah, these just aren't working. These just aren't working. And I had a flip phone. I was like, yeah, it's just missing a lot. And I've always been into software. I've always been into Linux, Android. I've been doing Android stuff, like messing around with it since my teenage years. Always big into custom operating systems and all that. And I was like, yeah, I bet I could make a phone. I bet I could just make a phone. Like, I bet I could just do that. Of course, I didn't make it. I took Pixel hardware, but I made my own operating system, and I sent one to my uncle. I was like, oh, I made this. You'll love it. You got it. He's like, hey, I really think you can sell these. And then that blossomed into the whole ghost phone thing. I don't know if Chris has mentioned, which what I currently do. And then through that, Chris reached out to me. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, looking for a name for your phone, for Side Phone. You came across Ghost Phone, and that led to my website and all that. And he reached out. He's like, hey, I don't know what you guys do. I don't know that, but if, maybe there's a collaboration here on the software side, because I know software's, is kind of the specialty here. And yeah, I've wanted to do hardware for so long. And the fact that Chris was like, oh yeah, I want to make hardware. I was like, oh, I'm all in. I'm all in. I've always wanted to make software for a custom hardware product. And yes, that's kind of, I guess, in short, obviously it all started when I was born, but most recent history to now why I'm here.
Sebastian, just for context and for the viewers, Jake, for yourself, I was definitely a little odd. The first thing that I did when I decided I wanted to start creating a cell phone was I reached out to every single competitor I could think of, and I just introduced myself and said, "Hey, I think the product that you guys are building is so important, and I want to jump into something similar. And if there's an opportunity to co-work, let me know. I could learn from you, and maybe I could be of service." And Jake, that was very similar to the conversation we had as well. It was the same mentality. It was just how could I help basically, and how could we work off each other. I truly don't think that there's competition in a landscape like this. I think there's only more organization, vocalization, people coming together to build something great for the world truly. So that was the first thing I did, and that's how I met Sebastian. And the moment we started talking, probably 5, 10 minutes in, it just had clicked, and I'd realized that I am speaking to my better half right here. This is incredible. I just it was incredible, and I'm very fortunate and grateful to have Sebastian working on the project right now. In terms of my introduction, I was trying to figure out how to start this because I think just sort of opening up and being candid as well. I think a lot of it started with what's wrong with me. That's how I internalized it, and the book that I'd been reading also explained a lot of that too. I think just for context, I'm in the later part of my 20s, and throughout that period in time, it was very interesting because uh, early in your 20s, of course, you go through a period where every single year you do something. The next year, you look back at the prior year and you say, "Wow, I'm in such a better place than I was last year. I can do so much more." For me, I guess mid into my 20s, it just all started to feel like it had plateaued. And then to the later end of my 20s, it came to a point where I actually felt like every year I was declining. I was I was I was learning less. I knew less. My vocabulary my that's a perfect place to mess up a word on
There you go. Yeah.
vocabulary, but yeah, that's the perfect point to do it. But my vocabulary, I felt like could have used improvement, and I kept looking at myself and my surroundings, and wondering what's wrong. How do I get back to a point where I'm green and growing? And the first thing that I did to go on this quest was I looked at my life and the vices that I had, and I cut out every single addiction I could think of, to the point where I became obsessed with the idea of it. And I didn't even drink coffee. Even to this day, I don't drink coffee. It's not a habit that I have. But there's one thing that I looked at as I did this audit throughout my life. And by the way, all of these things that I did, removing alcohol, removing any sort of substances, or including coffee for my life, all of these things, getting better sleep, it didn't really help. I was still caught in this phase that I couldn't explain, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And then I realized there's this one thing that I didn't change. I'd always had a mobile phone on me at every point. I had this habit: going to bed, check my phone, wake up, check my phone. To me, it was this excuse where if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be able to communicate with others. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't be able to know what's going on in the world. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't be able to go to events. It's so pervasively ingrained in our society that I just felt like it couldn't have even been something I could consider as a problem or an addiction to grapple with and try and address. So I shut it out of my mind until this point last summer where I said, what if I go without it? And what if I lose contact with my friends and family for a bit and just sort of go rogue and see what that's like? And it had happened. First experience, interesting enough, was at a music festival with friends, and I told some people, I sort of whispered it to them. I said, I really want to disconnect. And of course, in a sea of festivals now, I don't have anything to share, unfortunately, but I think we can all imagine those photos or those personal experiences we have of being at a festival, looking out at a sea of people, and all you see are phones. I had made a promise to myself that I'm going to go to a festival and completely disconnect and not even have a device on me and just rely on, oh, it sounds so silly, but just fate and energy that I'm going to find my friends at the end of the day and that they're going to be there. And when I had done that, it was the most beautiful experience. At first, there was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of, oh, shoot, how am I going to do this? This is impossible. But then as I got through it, it was the most empowering thing. And then I decided to take that experience and apply it to daily life. So when I would go to work, I just wouldn't have my device with me. When I would go for errands around, I wouldn't have my device on me. And after doing that for a few months, that was the only thing that I found personally that actually kicked me out of that phase into now this opportunity where I really felt like I was more present, but I also felt like I was back to a point where I had hit my baseline and I'm at a point where I can start being green and growing again. So it worked for me. It worked for me. One of the things that I eventually decided was, how can I maintain this lifestyle, but also continue to have contact with friends and family? How can I still have the services that I need on a certain at a certain point in time? And to me, I looked at every single solution that existed in the market, and I'm super analytical by nature, and I'd like to think I'm logical too. And I looked at every single possible thing that I could do personally to find the best balance in my life. And I'd found if I decided I wanted to keep my smartphone, I could use services that, um, not to name names, but I'm sure we could all think of a few app launchers that we could put on our phones to make it all black or to just launch certain applications or lock them. There are also NFC tags and items that you can tap to lose access to your apps. I explored a lot of things like that, which would allow me to continue to have my smartphone, but a, a locked version of it, I guess, a healthier version of it. And personally, I found those to be nonsensical. I didn't want to feel like I was paying more for less. I didn't want to have a device that I'd spent thousands of dollars on that I'm now constantly using in a compromised state. What I determined was best for me was to set that aside and time box use to it to a point in time I know won't affect my life. And that for me was maybe 1, 2 hours a day max. And that would be for business use. When I go onto the device, I'm using it for an intended purpose. And I almost have this mindset shift. So I'm not using it as a consumer necessarily. I go into it for a particular purpose. I go in and out. And with that in mind, having those other alternatives like the app launchers, they didn't make sense for me because they would have just slowed me down to do what I need to do in that time boxed moment. And every other instance of time, I decided I would have a more minimal option. And at the time, I'd used a Cat S22 to do this, which I'd simplified. I'd actually, it's funny, I'm sure there's some videos floating around the internet, but again, very analytical. I decided I wanted to figure out what the best dumb phone would be, the best alternative phone. So I actually bought probably 15 or 20, and I did these comparisons and tests on my own, and I just really wanted to see which one would be the best for me. And I feel like a lot of people in the community do the same thing. There's like this collector's mindset, and there's just this curiosity of going back to the past and trying to see and even support the people who are doing this. And I was one of those. I was very involved. I bought several devices, and I found that the Cat S22 was the best for my purpose and what I needed to do. It became a daily driver, but there were some things that I didn't love, and I didn't like how bulky it was. Um, Personally, I would have preferred if it was a little bit more simplified, if it didn't have the default Android Go screen. I know there's ways to change that, but I found that there were opportunities to change that device, and I'd reached out to the manufacturer and I'd asked them if they would be. That in and of itself was a bit of a lift, because they Cat, or I guess the company who had been working with Cat to build the phone, had gone out of business, so I had to trace all the way through to figure out who actually makes the device. And I ended up finding the manufacturer, and I reached out to them and said, hey, would I be able to adapt this to a smaller form factor? And they said, sure. And that's where the origins of Sidephone had begun. So that's my long-winded intro and how I came about it.
That is way cool. I hadn't realized that little bit there at the end. But yeah, that's I think that's fantastic. And one thing that kept coming to mind, and I think Sebastian, I'll turn it to you after this. It's interesting to me to hear you two describe that because as me, myself as probably the oldest, I have a little bit of a different experience in that the the epitomal smartphone, which iPhone I think could probably arguably be called the entryway into the modern smartphone that we have today, didn't even launch until I was, I want to say 17 or 18 years old. And so everything before that was either BlackBerry if you were super rich, or a flip phone, just a basic phone, or maybe a feature phone where you had a couple of apps, maybe internet access that was really basic. And so what you had just described, Chris, of this concert going experience without it, that was what my upbringing was like all the way through my teenage years. Nobody had smartphones, and the handful of people that did have a cell phone, it was a basic phone. It was calls or texts, and usually you wanted to ignore it because those were going to be from your parents. This was before the big, I can still remember where in the US when SMS plans came out for phones and people started texting each other for the first time, and that all of a sudden you're not calling anyone, you're just texting. And nowadays it seems like people don't even text, they use whatever app is, whatever social media app is their favorite. But it's neat for me to be able to see that it sounds like two of you that never had that history of seeing what it was like before and wanting to harken back to it, which is the whole idea of returning retro, are also sort of hearing that call of, hey, we've gone beyond the pale here, friends. We're going too far a certain direction, and we need to take steps to course correct. So I just think that's really really neat to see people that never experienced it also see the value in it.
It's it's definitely something special, and I'm seeing it more and more personally. I don't know if we've glorified what it was to have retro devices in our life. I'm sure it came with a lot of challenges, and I'd be curious to know more about what those were, Jake. But for at least my generation, and I'm sure younger folks as well, the idea of it is very alluring. Just because we know of the damage of having the devices we currently have on us at all times. But I am curious to know what daily life was like, and just errands going around navigating. I'm sure I remember in my childhood, I have fond memories of, and Jake, I think we talked about this last time. Every year, my family would take a cross continent road trip, and I remember just sitting in the back of the van, and in front of me, I couldn't even see the road if I wanted to. There would just be a giant paper map. So, so that's what I remember in my childhood, and I've got fond memories of that. And that's part of the reason why I like the idea of returning retro. It reminds me of those days, which I just had whispers of when I was very, very young, probably I would say 5, 6, 7 in the back of a minivan. And that's when some of the best experiences had happened, coincidentally as well. Things that you couldn't plan if you wanted to. It's taking the wrong turn. It's ending up in a detour path that you need to problem solve your way out of. I think those experiences were so beautiful, and that idea of saying, hey, what if I can get a retro device that now puts me in those situations on a daily basis, walking through the city, finding a bagel shop I would have never known because maybe the owner didn't want to invest in being the first person on Google Maps so that they can get eyes and attention, but maybe they just make a really good bagel and there's someone that would be fantastic to talk to. And by having a retro device, I'm able to walk through the street and discover it spontaneously. I think that's the life to me that I want to live. And that's what I think I would hope that devices we're all building would help to inspire.
A word that you just used there a couple of times, I think that is so important. And then Sebastian, I want to hear your thoughts here. Discover. I think that that is such a great word that could be used to describe that environment. And it's not that tech use leads you not to be able to discover, but the nature of your everyday life is so different when you don't have that constantly plugged in, constantly online resource of, well, let's see what the best bagel shop is here. Well, oh, let's see what I mean, fill in the blank as far as what Google, allowing Google to tell you what the best thing is, or allowing whatever search engine, or nowadays more and more ChatGPT or large language model chatbots or whatever. But you yourself were in your surroundings, and you were aware of your surroundings, and you would just find things. And that is such a I was thinking about, as you asked, what are some of the differences, what are the things that were challenges, or there were some challenges, but at the time they weren't, because you didn't know what was coming, and so you didn't know that you were without it. But I just think the biggest probably was the way people interacted with each other. If you were talking to someone that you weren't in the room with, it was with a phone call for the most part. I mean, even still, when phones were becoming more and more common, where maybe you could say more of my friends had cell phones, mobile phones I'm talking about, than not, you still were calling each other primarily when you weren't around getting in touch with each other. But the majority of the time was spent together. You would get together with your friends, and you would go and discover. You would go, and you didn't know what you were going to do. You just said, hey, let's get together and do something. What are we going to do? I don't know. Okay, sure. And you would all get together, and whether it was, you know, building bike ramp. I mean, I guess this is going a little bit younger, but bike ramps and seeing who can get the most air off of a jump, or skateboarding, longboarding, snowboarding, paintball. I mean, there's a number of different things that I could list off from my own childhood that I feel like kids nowadays would never discover, because they more and more commonly have been had a screen placed in their hands from the time that they could even identify different colors and flashing objects. And it just leads to a completely different upbringing, a screen based childhood and upbringing, as opposed to, in my day, it was one of discovery, adventure, unknown, but really from a very positive side.
Yeah, and it's very comforting. I guess I would say, for lack of a better word, to hear you talk about it, Jake, actually, being an adolescent in those times, because I'm in the same boat as Chris. Where, like, I remember as a kid things being different, but sometimes it's almost difficult to tell if that's, well, is that because I was a kid, or was it because there was something actually just very different about the way people interacted. And my parents were always way behind on technology adoption. They were the main family computer was running Windows XP, I think, until 2016, when I helped them replace it. Like, it was ridiculous. That's not even secure. And like, my dad had a flip phone up until about the same era, and now he has an iPhone. He's never going back. But it's just so interesting, and being technically, I think, older end of Gen Z for me. I'm 23. Um, Feeling like there is something. I remember faintly that things were better, that this was different, and now there's this almost dystopian future. At the very least, not good, with all the devices and everybody my age, especially younger, my younger siblings, their friends, and just how the whole interaction has changed. Because I can still remember, and I would like to think that spiritually I'm part of like a pre-smartphone generation. Like, I didn't get one until I was 16 or 17. That, so like, it didn't hit my development quite as much, but with my younger siblings, with the people they know, with even some younger people I know, it has. And it's just very strange to be in a place where it feels like this future was thrust upon us. Like, I didn't ask for smartphones when the iPhone came out. Like, my big brother was born right around the same time. Like, I was 6 years old. I was worried about other things, not like, oh, hey, everybody, we should be using these and we should be doing that. Like, I think there's a whole generation that feels like, at least the way I feel, we weren't asked that society would be built on this framework now. Social interaction would be built entirely online. Nobody asked me, and I feel terrible too. I mean, bring it up as an example. I don't know if this is controversial or not, but like online dating. I didn't meet my wife online. Thankfully, it's just that's not how it worked out for me. With a lot of my friends are still single. It's like, and they're like, hey, we didn't ask for this, or like, we don't like it, but we didn't get a say at all in the way things were trending. This whole world that we are now in was developed without us, and it's not entirely clear for a lot of people. Well, how can we go back or move forward
in a better way? How can we go back to that while moving forward of actual social interaction and stuff like that? I think for so many people, it's just not clear. How do you do that at scale? They're all things we're trying to figure out, like generationally speaking. And I mean, obviously, it goes across generations because now everybody older as well is experiencing the same things.
There are definitely feedback loops, and one of the things that Jonathan mentions in The Anxious Generation is he talks about the feedback loops that are that come up. And one example for phones is we all start to use them. So companies start to build solutions around them. The assumption will always have them. So then we get stuck into them. And now, Sebastian, to your point, there's no way out of it. And no one was asked. It's just it was thrust upon us, and we're starting to find out that it has come with a lot of negative consequences. And I don't actually think we're going to see all of the consequences for another decade, because the generation to have gone through it at the most pivotal point haven't come to the point in their life in their late 20s where a lot of the damage I think would start to manifest truly. So it's really a lagging. What we're seeing now, particularly with myself, with my generation, is I would say a lagging indicator of what's to come. And if we were to stop it right now, we would be helping things for a future generation.
Well, and I think a thought that keeps coming to my mind is I'm not sure if you have either of you have read or watched the original Jurassic Park film or novel, but there's a very memorable scene that has become a part of just pop culture in general, where Ian Malcolm, this kind of very eccentric mathematician, he almost gets into an argument, not quite, but almost an argument with the creator of Jurassic Park, the guy that's running the whole thing. And he talks, and the owner is talking about, yes, but progress, yes, but look at these advancements that we've made. And he delivers the classic line, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could, they never stopped to think whether they should. And I just feel like, I mean, I'm a big fan. You guys might notice in the background there are several Jurassic Park memorabilia, dinosaurs and things. But just that concept in and of itself, progress technologically for the sake of it, for simply driving things forward without pausing to think, wait, do I need Chat GPT to do my thinking for me? Is that actually something that is necessary? And then taking it one step further, and if it's not necessary, is it even actually a good option? Do I want that? Does our society want to be one? Like you guys have very eloquently said, do I want to thrust that on my on upcoming generations because they have no say in it? And anyway, kind of rambling a little bit, but
No, it's
that's something
perfect.
that I keep thinking about, and I think that it's something that we don't see a lot of. It's just forward for the sake of forward, and old is automatically bad.
No, no, that's fantastic. There were a couple notes that I had taken as well as we were having our conversation. The first was around spontaneity and how I feel like there's an allure to it, and companies are capitalizing on it by trying to fake it. They're trying to fake a web experience that makes you feel like you've spontaneously arrived upon a site, or a particular place in the world, but what you're actually seeing is a very insidious ad. You're seeing an engineered placement of that so you can go there, and that's why I think one of the ways it manifests itself is there are a lot of places you can go in the world right now, and on Instagram it looks perfect, but you turn around and there's hundreds of people right behind you who have just come for the exact same thing that they saw on the internet, but now they're hiding it. They're hiding that experience from everyone else. It becomes this sort of trap, and it's. I hope that doesn't sound like a conspiracy theory, but it's one of the observations that I've seen. It's why not just be spontaneous? Why go through all of these loops to fake it? Why not just be spontaneous and abandon it entirely? And one of the things you said, Jake, which I actually really like, and I wrote this word down, is unknown. I think unknown, when someone hears it, it sounds scary. It sounds like it could be a bad thing. But what if unknown wasn't a bad word? What if unknown was growth? What if unknown was spontaneity? And I think that would be a really cool context shift as well. One of the things that I wanted to do, and why I personally wanted to continue to have conversations with you, Jake, is because I think the hardest uphill battle we're going to find isn't trying to figure out how to actually physically build a device. I think that's the easy part, unfortunately. I think the hard part here is how to create change at a societal level, because no company has been able to do that. Every company who has been clouded by profits has built devices that we now know to be quite detrimental to human health. So how can we build a healthy device and get people to use it? That I think is, it might not be $1 million question. Maybe there's no money in it. Maybe you actually lose money in it, but the world becomes a much better place. And that's the question that I think we're uniquely positioned to solve. And it's, I think, a beautiful problem to work on.
I think that's actually a great segue into, I would love to talk about Sidephone itself. I have a number of questions about it, specifically to introduce my viewers and listeners to the product that you and Sebastian are envisioning, that you're developing. But I think that you make a very good point. I don't think that you can do it without that corresponding mentality shift at the individual level and broader shift at the societal level. It comes down to values, it comes down to principles, and companies are going to do, I mean, I hate to say it, and I am a big proponent of the free market capitalist model that we have in the West, but companies are going to follow the profits. And so it's almost our responsibility as people, and then also as those of us wanting to make a difference, to show companies that that is what we want. And I think we are seeing, and Chris, Sebastian, I would love to hear your thoughts on this specifically as we talk a little bit more about Sidephone. I think we're starting to see people showing that is something that they want. They want a device that bucks the trend, and in my case harkens back to something that once was, and maybe in you guys' case is something that is just better, that you would like to experience broadly for the first time.
Absolutely. I was looking at the show notes earlier, and one of the questions that had come up was, for those who haven't heard of Sidephone yet, how would we describe it in a nutshell? And I've got an answer here. Sebastian, I'm kind of curious, before I give mine away, I was curious to know off the cuff how we've been working together for a few months now. Not to put you on the spot, and you could pass this back to me if you'd like, but I'm kind of curious to know, based off of our conversations, what how you describe Sidephone.
Yeah, but you're probably going to say something way better than I say right after I talk, but I'll go for it. I think the core idea behind Sidephone is a device, so technology. It can augment our abilities in a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of things we can do with technology that we can't do normally, and so I think Sidephone kind of encompasses everything that augments, everything that gives us more flexibility, the ability to just do more things, and doesn't have any of the things that are just kind of the antithesis of that, where it's, like we're at an interesting point with social media and a lot, especially like short form video and all that, where we watch things to experience, or as much as we can, what it's like to not be on your phone, if that makes sense. Like we never watch videos of people on their phones. We watch videos of people doing things. Like I'm a big car motorcycle guy, that's kind of stuff that gets me. It's like, oh, people are putting, engine swaps and all this, like, wow, but I'm on my phone. I'm not doing those things. And so I think sort of the core um, driving factor behind Sidephone is, what can't you do without a device that is good? Like I can't right now call my dad, just like telepathically communicate with my dad, but I can call him, and that's fine. And that doesn't detract anything. It increases our ability to connect and just be able to, and be safe when we're out. And, all that, all like same with GPS, things like that, things that help us do more, but aren't just sucking our time, sucking our energy. None of those things. So yeah, I guess the Sidephone is at its core, I would say, a purely augmentation device. Which that sounds terrible when I put it in words. Like I can't think of a better phrase on the spot, but I think that's kind of the core thesis. But Chris, I want to hear what you have to say on that.
If someone had asked me what Sidephone is and they had no prior knowledge, I would answer with one word, and it would just be a lifestyle. That's two words, but it would be lifestyle. And I truly mean that. And it's, Sebastian, you might hate me for this, but one of the things that I've always said, and the way that we're going to approach selling the product soon, is we're not going to be in your face and convince you to buy the product. We're it's a lifestyle that we're encouraging other people to have, and there are other ways to get it. What we're encouraging is the conversation, to encourage, as Jake, you've put it, the return to retro. I'm not here to say buy this device in particular and talk it up. I think we're putting a lot of conscious effort. Sebastian and I are putting a lot of conscious effort and strategic thinking in how to build what we think is the best possible product to achieve the lifestyle. But ultimately, the lifestyle is what we want to promote, and just basically let people know it's not impossible. There's this feeling right now of anything other than life with a smartphone is impossible. Not having Apple Pay is impossible. Not having Spotify or streaming, it's impossible. I think it would be very cool to not only create a alternative lifestyle, but demonstrate and show just how beautiful it can be. That would be really cool. And that's how I would approach that.
I like that. And I think that those two perspectives really go well together, where Sebastian talked about a device that can augment or enhance your ability to do things, but Chris talking about it being more of a means to something greater than the end in and of itself, to help you seek out that simple but, dare I say, efficient or productive. Because for me, one of the core tenets of returning retro is to eliminate the waste, the compulsiveness, the eating away of your time without you sometimes even realizing it. I guess I didn't really introduce my sort of wake up moment that led to all of this, but one time I just remember reaching for my phone for no reason at all. I had no control over it. It was an instinct. It was a reflex. I found myself holding it and then just didn't even realize what I had reached for it for. No notifications, no buzz or ring or whatever. And I thought to myself, wow, I am one that has gone through. I didn't used to have this type of a device, and now I do. And if I am compulsively reaching for my phone randomly for no reason, what kind of a lifestyle have I not only accepted, but do I foster in myself? And obviously, then I got all philosophical, broader society, and all of that. But I think that the two things that you two said, a device that helps enhance our ability to do things, but not at the cost of throwing a healthy lifestyle away and it being the means to the end rather than the end of self.
The reason why lifestyle in particular is important to me, and something that I wouldn't want to lose sight of, is because as soon as we turn it into a focus on the device and selling the device, it becomes, to me, close to now trying to compete with others and trying to sell it more. By focusing on the lifestyle, there's only room for others to join. And I think that's a really powerful shift as well. I don't think that the market is zero sum, where for us to win, others have to lose. I think the conversation in and of itself and the wake up call will cause everyone to win. And I think that keeping that as a core tenet of the product and the company that we're building is going to be pretty powerful. And I think it's an experiment. I mean, it could fail. We could potentially lose tons of money. It's the risk that we've decided we're going to take. But what if it shows something so much more beautiful? What if it shows that you don't have to have this pervasive and this toxic growth at all times that leads you to do unethical things? What if you can have a symbiotic relationship between humans and technology that truly helps people? What if you can create a device that amplifies the innate human capabilities that we have and doesn't detract from them? Because right now, there are teams of scientists, people who have gone through years and years of study, who have now put their time and attention to trying to get people hooked on a screen so that they spend 8 or 9 hours on it so that they can sell them product. I don't think that is fantastic. And I don't think anyone would really agree with it. Logically speaking, it's just not normal. It's not right. So that's why I say lifestyle is the most important thing, and it's sort of my guiding and moral compass.
Yeah. And cut me off if I if I say anything we're not aligned on here, Chris. But I think one of the, like you mentioned, like Chris mentioned, about not being super in your face about product, or buy. Like there's a, with so many brands and with so many products, a lot of the marketing and just a lot of the idea behind it is like, oh, I buy this product because I'm aligned with their mission, right? Like, oh, I wear this shirt because it's from a performance company or that. And we would really like to sort of flip that on its head, where you buy Sidephone not because you align with us, not because necessarily because of dreams. I mean, obviously the whole idea, yes, but because you are invested in yourself. Because it's not you're aligned with our dream, you're buying into our dream and our brand's mission, but you are getting into your own dream and your own mission, and we're just there to facilitate that.
It's true. It's true. It's being a product that once you buy it, you've made a commitment to yourself to go onto this path of growth and self-development. It's kind of like what I was explaining in my introduction. I was in my 20s and I realized I stopped growing. I realized that, if I stayed the course and I continued doing what I'm going to do, I know exactly what my life is going to look like in 20 years. I can calculate it. I can project it because it's so sure. But what if I go to the unknown? And what if I continue growing? There's no limit to where I could go. And to have a device that can help you get back on that track, I think would be very, very cool. And Sebastian, feel free to interject if I say something. I know we haven't even started selling the device yet, which is the funniest part about this conversation. You're literally the first person we've spoken to about what we've set out to do. We've basically jumped on a ship. We've realized we want to solve this problem for society, and we think we're going to solve it in a beautiful way. But the solution isn't even shown yet. We're just literally talking about the core mechanics of it. So what I'm about to say here is not final whatsoever. We may change. And these are ongoing conversations. But one of the things that Sebastian and I were considering was, what if we take this year to not do a giant launch for the phone at all, but instead make it extremely, extremely exclusive, in the sense that it almost becomes an application. And what we seek out are people who believe that they've been damaged by devices, who want a different lifestyle, who want to set themselves on this path of self-development. And what if we create a perfect device for that person? So we don't know how many devices we'll have this year. It's to be determined. But what we do know is that Sebastian and I could create them without any external investment. We don't need to do a Kickstarter. We wouldn't even ask of that. What would it look like if we just spent this year taking a group of people who want to do something different, and we built the perfect device for them? And we don't even think about scaling beyond that. It's something to think of, but it's I think it would flip the whole idea of launching a product on its head.
I think that's a very intriguing idea, and I think that you would get some feedback that some of these larger companies with completely different motivations than what you just described, Chris, would ever consider in designing a product, creating a product. And that honestly sounds kind of exciting to me. I did want to ask, I hope this doesn't shift gears too much, but you're kind of getting to the point where, what is Sidephone in terms of the device itself? What makes it different than any old smartphone? Is it a smartphone? Would you call it something different? Would you call it I don't know if you two are familiar, if you saw the video I did on it, but on Returning Retro, I kind of talk about phones that would fall into four different categories, being a basic phone, which is pretty much calls and texts, a feature phone, which maybe has that plus a little bit extra functionality. You might have a couple of built-in apps, but there's not an app store. It's not what you would call a smartphone, which would be something with an app store, with faster internet. In a retro smartphone, some of those older characteristics like a keypad or a physical keyboard or a black and white screen, or I'm sure you guys have seen the one that are they're really small, like the screen on the device is only like 2 or 3 inches. Well, not two, that's crazy, but like 3 or 4 inches, we'll say. And then you've got modern smartphones, which are your this year's model of Samsung or iPhone. What is Sidephone exactly? Where does it fit into that? And what makes it different in terms of this conversation we're having of living a more deliberate life digitally and harkening back to productivity and simplicity as opposed to the constantly scrolling on the screen all day long?
For sure. There are literal ways we can answer this question, and then there are more philosophical ways. I'll touch on a little bit of both, and I'll also bridge a little bit about what we were speaking about just now to this question. And the first part, another sort of another point in the direction of making an application only type of device to start would be to really create a product for humanity. And we've sort of set out on this goal, but it's impossible to do without actually having a large, vast group of people from around the world contributing and offering suggestions. The reason why I wanted to start with that was because the answer that I'd give you of what the device is currently right now can be changed. It can be changed, and it should be changed based off of the group of people who help us bring it to market this year. What we have right now is a hunch based off of all the research we've done, all the things that we've seen, all the people we've talked to of what we think the best first step should be. But it could adapt, and it should adapt based off of what our initial community helps us with. And the literal answer to what it is, and Sebastian, keep me honest here, the literal definition, if you were to look at it and see it on a table, it would be a T9 phone. It would be technically a smartphone if you were to sort of look at the inner workings of it, the technology behind it, but it's completely modified so that what it truly is, to Sebastian's point, is an augmentation. It's what we've done is we've taken the essence and the beauty and the fun, the personality of devices from the early 2000s, and we've incorporated modern technology to it. And that's why I deliberately used the word smartphone, which we've all in this call said comes with a lot of negative consequences as well. I've used that word because we've needed to bridge the old with the new, because otherwise we couldn't literally have it in the network of current society. It wouldn't be able to work in some cases on the 4G services that we have. So there are certain things we've incorporated in it to bridge the gap. But our intent is to slowly change the fabric of society and flip the script so that the third device could quite literally bring us back in time. And that would be my answer right now. And I could even speak to why we've chosen T9 particularly. I think that's an interesting conversation. I know one of the questions that had come up previously was, what did we consciously choose to add and remove from the device? And everyone loves the idea of a QWERTY keypad. There are thousands and thousands of people, and there are lots of companies that will build successful products if they add a QWERTY to a phone. It's a beautiful device. It would be beautiful to look at, it'd be beautiful to use, I'm sure. The reason why we've consciously chosen at this point in time to not go with that immediately is because keeping augmentation in mind as the goal, and sort of looking around, being present in your surroundings, the QWERTY keypad does imply a little bit more use than we would want at this point in time. It's not that it would never change. If, again, we decide that maybe this is a good tool to get someone to bridge over to a simpler lifestyle, maybe a first step in. It's something that we'll definitely consider. Maybe you move to a T9 over time, but the T9 form factor is fantastic, and the advantages you can get from a lifestyle with it are are great. It's to Sebastian's point, it's being able to call your friends, your family, and have those conversations in real time. One thing I was thinking of, this might be completely wrong, and I'm sure you can quote examples where maybe it's not exactly correct, but um, I try to think back to the idea of personal development, becoming the best person you possibly can, and I try and think of people who in history have really changed the world. And I think that the best leaders of our generation, they've they've done that through speeches, through long form communication, through blogs. It's through speaking, communication. It's not through quick messages you would have wrote on your phone and texts and short form content like that. Um, I I think a T9 would help push people to the healthier things that truly amplify their abilities. Sebastian, curious to know your thoughts.
Is it cool if I get a little bit into the software specifics? At
Sure.
least as they stand. I know hardware we're kind of waiting to reveal a whole bunch of things, and that will be super cool.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
putting a lot of work into that. Which is the thing about it. I think I can speak in very, very general terms of when it comes to the design of it. I mean, the whole thing about like a T9 form factor is it's not just a glass slab. Like there's a lot more fun to be had with that. It brings it back to being a device. Like the problem with the phone is it doesn't look like anything, so it can be anything, and that ends up being a problem. Something with a T9, something with buttons, is a specific device that's meant to be used in a specific way. And that I think just from a visual, because we're humans, we're very visual, having it look like a phone, or with the buttons for the phone purpose, just really sets the tone from a usability from a use case standpoint, as it being a phone for classic phone stuff and not a blank slate that you can do anything with. Because what is a phone? Yeah, it can do so many things, but that's possibly too many. It's not good to have the everything in your pocket, obviously. And yeah, and on the software side, in terms of like your classification system, yeah, it's somewhere in between 3 and 4, somewhere in between like the more advanced feature phones and then a full smartphone. Can I talk about, Chris, like our little app store thing, kind of what we have planned for that? Is that okay to?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't be worried about
No,
that. But just again, prefacing it with things can change.
yeah, things can change. Anything can change. But right now, and I already have this on the Ghost Phone product, all that. But it is a well, not self, but company hosted app store, similar to F-Droid, if you've ever had experience with that or any of the other like open source ones, but just with a very, very selection of apps. And some of those apps are again, open source or on builds and things like that, and some are like Apple Music provides a direct APK download, which is super nice, super convenient. So like with Spotify, if you want to get a download outside of a Play Store, there's piracy being committed somewhere, right? Like it breaks the terms of service, it's not good. But Apple Music doesn't. They actually provide a direct download for Android users, and so including apps like again a very limited selection of curated apps will, as of right now, it looks like be on it. So you have some level of app store. So you can expand the capabilities of the device, but not to the extent that a smartphone's capabilities can be extended.
And this is
And
something that I had kind of wondered, because there's the hardware side of things, which naturally is going to provide some sort of limitations, or if not limitations, motivations for how much you would use your device. How, obviously a large screen is going to be more tempting to use for media consumption, whatever it is, than a small screen, or a keypad is going to be more motivating to spend a little bit less time typing than just the super easy. So yeah. So it sounds like there will be some form of an app store, but it will be very specific in terms of what apps are available through it. Is that what I'm understanding?
yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
100%. Yeah, that and there's we'll figure out as things go, because again, this is what I've been doing for the past couple of years. So there's a lot we can do. I have this. I've written software, and yeah, again, this is in flux. I don't know if we'll have it or not, but it's a possibility. that in the package manager of the operating system itself, so it's blocked at an operating system level, the installation of like any social media apps like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, we have the capability to do that. We're going to figure out whether or not that is something we actually do at that level. That's just a conversation I guess Chris and I will have to have as we get closer, as we talk to people like, hey, because so people will want to sideload some things for sure. Do we let them sideload everything? And it's just like, hey, you're kind of on your own. There's enough of a barrier there as it is. Or no, okay, we should actually block some things outright from being installed. It's a lot of that is going to come out as we sort of fine tune the ethos behind everything. We're like, okay, is this a open platform that you get the phone, you can kind of do anything with it, or is it a little bit more specific about what it's trying to do, trying to stop you from doing, I guess. And
And I
that's
think
yeah,
that's
that's
I think that's really interesting because I've wondered about that. Is what is that balance of it's just inconvenient enough that 90% of people are just going to be stopped right there, but those 10% of people that want that flexibility or that freedom, it's still an option to them. I don't imagine those conversations are probably very easy among you guys.
no, no. It's like a big one. A big one is email. At least in the business, I've run email is like the most requested feature, and it's tough because it's useful. I mean, we haven't. I don't think we've really talked about email yet, so that's another thing. I'm not saying we will or won't have it, but it's a conversation that I said because email does distract some people. Speaking of personal experience, my wife is for some reason really distracted by email. She does nothing else on her phone because she does, she works, she does, some youth group things and all that. So she needs to be kind of up to date on her email, but so she'll always be refreshing it. That's all she has access to. Like it becomes one of those, I don't know, maybe trigger points the word or whatever, because it is something that you can just kind of keep refreshing and something that you can kind of keep looking at and going through. It has an almost infinite scroll potential, and that's really what we'd like to avoid is anything with any sort of infinite scroll potential. Which again, I mean, like the only exception that would be music because people love music, but you could spend infinite time scrolling through music. So there's a conversation there too, where it's like, okay, how much access do we have? Give people to streaming, music streaming, or anything like that. And it's really narrowing down the ethos where it's like, okay, is there just some amount of self-control we assume on the part of the consumer, or should it really, really be locked down? And really, that's also going to be figuring out, well, are there already options that maybe serve the market better that do those things? All conversations that still need to still really need to be fine-tuned. I don't know, hashed out.
One thing I've thought about, and maybe a little preview at a video I'm working on it sometime down the road here, is what is the nature of the phone that you carry with you? What is the nature of what you would use it for, or what you could be expected to use it for? This idea that I've had is, and this has worked out really well for me, is just kind of a self control, personal discipline of, if I could do an activity on a computer or a laptop, don't do it on a phone. So, for example, email is Sebastian, I love that example. That's one. Or even a Teams meeting, or there's just all of these things that, in my case, mostly for work, that I do on my phone, not because I need to, but simply because it's more convenient on my phone than going over. And so the self-discipline would be, okay, is this a thing that I need to do, that I could do on a computer? Okay, then I'm going to get up, walk over, just log on, whatever, to kind of help create some new habits and some almost self-imposed barriers to entry, so that I can get rid of some of those behaviors automatically. And the nature of what we use a phone now, it's more and more and more and more centralized. And so I'm sure you guys have seen this idea of decentralization, digital decentralization, where you'll have people that are getting their MP3 player, they're getting their digital camera, they're sort of reviving some of this stuff that for me growing up was the norm, but with a smartphone, you don't need all of those different items. So this whole concept of maybe reworking what a phone is meant to be used for, Sebastian, I was just kind of thinking of that as you were describing those things for me. Do we include email? Do we include social media apps? Where's the line between freedom and helping them guide them a little bit more restrictedly? I don't know.
That's awesome. Sebastian, completely agree with everything you had mentioned. I I think about so I actually thought of an idea as we were having this conversation. I'll share that here now, transparently, because it might be a terrible one. You guys let me know. Let's make this a little bit of a think tank for a second. But yeah, what if what if someone had email on their phone, and at the end of the month or at the end of the week, we prompt them and we say, "Hey, did this help or hurt you? Do you want to try going without it for a week and see what it's like?" That could be cool, and that could build this device which we're talking about will slowly guide you to a better path, but will bring you there over time, in a realistic way that matters. Because I think the cold turkey method is as frustrated as a lot of us are, and committed to trying it. um, it's tough. It's hard. What if the device guides you there over time? That's a really interesting idea. And again, one of the things Sebastian mentioned at the beginning of the call was how we want to be the antis and help me out with the word, Sebastian. The antis I can't even say it right now.
This is
That is a tongue twister. I'm not even going to take full blame for that, although vocabulary is in the works. Um, so so whatever other companies are doing, we want to do the inverse. And this idea of get more apps, to have a check-in every so often to actually delete some, I think would be really refreshing, and definitely with in line with our ethos. I think that could be an interesting approach, because what I fear is I fear that, again, drawing on the anxious generation, because of your recommendation, Jake, and reading it and having all those thoughts marinate throughout the week. One of the things that Jonathan mentions in the book is, he says, when you're raising a child, you don't want to be a carpenter, you want to be a gardener. You don't want to tell them and instruct them exactly what to do. They're gonna they're gonna revolt. It's not the healthiest way to do it. It causes a lot of resentment. What you want to do is be a gardener, and you want to set someone up for success. You want to give them the environment to be successful. And I think that's what we would want to do with this device. We want to create the environment to be successful, and we would want to have those check-ins regularly. But for some people, email might be incredibly important, and they might use it responsibly. So why eliminate them? That would be one thing I'm thinking of just off the top of my head. And I will literally, after this call, start studying a dictionary and taking all the hardest words I can and just pronouncing them, because I this is a perfect practice for me.
That is, I think that's a very interesting idea of maybe leaving it up to the user as to what their own level of discipline is or isn't with these prompts. This is a really interesting idea, Chris. I think follow that, because that would give it would essentially give you the best of both worlds, where the option is there, and the prompt, I think, could maybe even sort of, I don't know, wake them up a bit and say, hey, you've done this thing or you've exhibited this behavior. Did it make your life better, or did you find it to be distracting or holding you back? And that way they literally could progress at their own pace according to their own comfort level, but still be able to realize the behaviors that they have in without otherwise having been able to. I think that's a really interesting concept you've just described.
And it builds off of another thing that I was reading in here. I actually, it was so important to me that I literally bookmarked it. And it's basically, how do you know that you have the signs of addiction when it comes to smartphones or technology? I think this idea of checking in is so critically important to introduce, whether it's at a regular interval of time or at the outset. Um, and I'd want to read a couple of them now, for the viewers to ask themselves, to see if this is something that you should go down as a path. The first question, and by the way, all of these are yes no questions for the most part. And if you answer yes to any one of them, there may be an addiction that you weren't aware of. There may be something that you could improve. And the first one is, does social media, does using your device, does it interfere with your daily routines and commitments, such as school, work, friendships, extracurricular activities? Do you experience strong cravings to check it? So Jake, it's that tap on your pocket. It could just be as innocent as just going and sitting down and tapping the side, just sensing a notification, a ghost notification. Is that happening? That is an indicator that there could be an addiction here that you're unaware of. Do you lie or use deceptive behavior to spend time online or on your device? Do you often choose social media over in-person social interactions? Or texting, I guess, could be another example. Do you just prefer that? If you prefer texting over a phone call, is there an opportunity to potentially address that and grow? Does it prevent you from getting at least 8 hours of sleep each night? That one was personal to me, and it's definitely rang true. So, next one, does it prevent you from engaging in regular physical activity? And then lastly, do you still keep doing it even though you've expressed an interest and a desire to stop? I'd imagine just being involved in this conversation, making it to this point, you've expressed the interest, but have you made that conscious change? I think these are very powerful statements, and I think it's more so powerful to have check-ins to continue being on the path that you desire to be on.
And I think too, I mean, as far as that quiz goes, I mean, I'm like maybe one of them that didn't apply to me. Most of them did. I don't think everyone. There was one that, like, do you lie about NASA? Nah, but then every
Yeah,
single other one. So it's like you got me out on question one, and then every single other one but one. But yeah, I really do think that to your previous point, especially with those, is that the answers to those questions are probably going to change during a person's phase in their journey. Again, shameless plug, in their journey returning retro, or in their journey beginning digital minimalism, or mindful tech use or deliberate tech use. And so having that phone be able to guide you along that, I don't know. I may be beating a dead horse here, Chris, but I think that's a really cool, to give them the freedom to choose, but also the mechanism to improve.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm excited. This is why it's been the most amazing journey. And Sebastian and I, we've had these conversations at length, and every single time we have them, an idea comes up, and we're just that much more energized to just get to it and build it out and implement it. It's so exciting. It's just every single conversation opens up a new rock to explore.
I'm curious to you, Jake, because I'm sure you talk to people about their phone use, returning retro all the time, not just online, but probably in real life as well. How do you go about it? I was just thinking, just the other week, me and my brother, we were hanging out with one of our very good mutual friends, one of my childhood friends. And we were trying to get him to go to the gym. You're like, oh, dude, he has a more sedentary job now. He's expressed interest. And we're like, oh, man, like, you should come work out with us. Like, we'll have a good time on that. He's like, yeah, well, how much is the gym? We're like, oh, it's like 40, 40 something bucks a month. It's like, that's kind of a lot for me right now. And he's like, like, how long? You're like, it's like an hour, a few days a week, whenever you can. He's like, oh, I don't know about that. And I thought there were a lot of parallels between conversations like that and conversations around dumb phones and digital minimalism, because there is something, even though it does enrich life, at least initially, there's something that, because people, as we talk about the dopamine receptors being fried and all that, like, we do get, even if it's not good, we do get dopamine from scrolling, from being online. That's why we do it. And for me personally, with my own digital minimalism, now I'm tripping up on my words, journey and experience, like when I'm hanging out with friends or my family, or one of my favorite things, riding my motorcycle, with my brother and my dad, I'm not thinking about my phone. I'm not thinking about my phone. When I'm out and about and doing things, I know some people are. Some people are at that level where, like, they actually are. But for me, I think I'm probably fairly standard in this regard. Um, that's not when I was really tempted to use my phone, when I really felt like I had to be checking things when I'm out having a good time. It's when I don't have anything going on, when I'm home and there's maybe things I could be doing, but nothing's like so pressingly important it has to be done. And that's when I start to waste the time. But it's also when I switched is where I was like, man, I really feel like I'm missing something. Because, like when you're missing an addiction, like if you ever quit coffee, I know, Chris, you quit coffee or nicotine or anything like that. There are those moments where you really feel like something's missing, like where you're like, oh man, it was a little bit, maybe it was better when I had that addiction, when I had that thing. And I'm just curious, Jake, how you go about conversations like that with people? Like, how do you really start to present it to them in a manner that they accept, especially people who maybe haven't thought of it before or haven't recognized the issue fully in their own lives?
Well, I think that Sebastian, awesome question. And this is something that is a challenge and will always be a challenge because it is easier to not put in the effort to change. And this is something, and Chris, I think you had talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the call. The manufacturers of these devices know this about people. They know that if they can get people's attention in those times that they're not engaged in something actively, they can trap them because they can offer a what's a good maybe more of a synthetic replacement that is easier to get than the actual. And so for me, I have found one way is, I don't know if shock therapy is the best analogy here, but to give them either a statistic or share with them something that they maybe never would have otherwise thought of. And I can't think of any specific examples right now, but there have been a couple of times as I have just kind of been reading and seeing where the statistics of, well, here's a perfect example. Analog clocks are being taken out of schools because the kids don't learn how to read the hands. And so the schools are saving money and when I tell people that, they're like, no, because mostly I'm talking to people that are my own generation, but I say, no, it's true, and this is why. And then I can kind of segue into my conversation about, the tablet from the time they could make noise and things like that. There are some other, and it's going to be different for everyone to kind of find what that hot button issue is meaningful for them. But I really do think, and you guys can, if you have examples of this, I'd love to hear them. I really do think that a lot of these issues that we're running into can kind of be, they're all just tributaries to this central idea of this screen and tech focused culture as opposed to what we had before. So I think that's a really long-winded way of saying it's hard, Sebastian. It really is. But with friends and loved ones, especially, think about things that are important to them. And I'm sure you could find an example. The one that I use, like they're taking clocks out of schools, or they don't teach cursive. Maybe it's because I'm a dad, and there's a lot of school stuff happening in right now with my kids and these things that I hear about every day. Where I'm like, boy, was it different for us. And find that thing, and then sort of use that as a segue into the conversation.
I might say some controversial things here. Sebastian, mute my mic for me if I go off course. But I think for the better part of, I would say, 2 3 decades, probably longer actually. Just this is just what I've experienced on my limited time here on Earth. But for the time that I've experienced technology in my life, every year was the promise of something cool and significantly better in every measurable way. And you would look at it and you'd say, wow, life with that would improve things that I currently do times 10. And it feels like, at least over the last few years, that phones in particular, their form factor, they've sort of reached their final form factor. And manufacturers have said, well, we can make it thinner. That's what we could possibly do. And then there's a topic right now that I'm sure everyone's been very deeply involved in, which is AI. And that has now sort of taken the torch of the promise of the future. But I think, and I'm almost grateful that I think we're realizing that that comes with a few lies, that comes with a few problems. And I'll give you some examples. I'm not going to name companies in particular, but for AI, a lot of people are saying, well, how can I use it in my life? And how can I use it often in my life? And companies, they want you to be using it as often as possible. Again, it's the attention economy that we're talking about. It's keeping you glued in and hooked. And I have a point on that unfortunately sounds like a bit of a conspiracy theory, but it's just the reality. But before I get to that, companies who are trying to brand AI right now and sell it as the next new thing and saying, hey, your life's going to be 10 times better next year because we're coming out with this. You should buy our product. Well, some of the ads that they're coming out with now that I've personally seen are, I mean, I've looked at them. And I no longer think that my life will be 10 times better with it. I'm actually starting to think my life will be worse off. And I'll give you examples. One of the ads that I saw, it was a father's birthday party, and he had his family, his two kids beside him, and his wife was in the other room, and the kids had come down with some presents that they had made, handmade for the father, very thoughtful. And the wife had basically said, "Oh, I forgot. I didn't do anything." And the wife had used AI to create a slide, a slideshow using old photos, and then presented that to the husband. And sort of positioned things as if that was a fantastic use of the technology and a rewarding use of the technology. And I saw it and I just got so terribly sad at that being the reality that people have to deal with. To me, that's not making my life 10 times better. And another example from another company was the idea of being able to open your door to your home with your phone and remember the lock code to your bicycle and use your phone to know what laundry to do. And at every point in your life, whether it's changing your car tire to setting up a tent, there's an app involved. And it's everything in your day to day life. And it's branded and it's pitched as some sort of advantage. Where's the advantage? And I think we're starting to realize this and we're starting to now speak up. And the reason why this is so important to talk about, and why I'll put myself here on the line to start the conversation, is because I think this is the last point in history where we can actually make that change. I think if it goes for another few years, we won't be able to make that change back. And that's why this whole conversation of returning retro is so important to have right now, because there won't be another opportunity to do it.
I agree. I think that the once that point of no return is passed, it becomes no longer metaphor. It becomes a reality. And this is something real quick. I think I've seen the ad that you're talking about, and I just thought to myself, oh my goodness, we are being promised a downgrade in our ability to be human. We are outsourcing. We are being promised that we can outsource living so many aspects of our everyday lives to either machines or technology or whatever you want to call it. And to me, that promise, it's not that it terrifies me. It's almost like it makes me so sad that they have done such a good job at making that appealing, but that we also have almost allowed the wool to be pulled over our eyes to think that it's appealing.
And it's so funny that even with the marketing budgets of billions and billions of dollars, even after all that, there's something innately within us that says it's not right. And one of the things I talked about is sort of this conspiracy theory, and I wish it was. I wish it was, but a lot of companies are particularly targeting children with the technology, because when you wire the usage into a young adult, particularly someone that's 10 to 12, and you ingrain this idea of using apps throughout daily life, when you ingrain it into a child, that will become their life. And not only that, but they will become a customer of your product for life. It happens with social media, it happens with devices. They try and get you in and they try and keep you there and make it part of your lifestyle for the foreseeable future. And it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a tactic. They teach you this as unethical strategies, and it's terrible.
Well, and I think there have been, even in the last maybe what 3 to 5 years, examples of this sort of coming to the limelight where I can't think of the exact examples where they were doing things that they said that they weren't doing in regards to children and getting children specifically for I think exactly the reasons that you're talking about.
Age verification checks. It's sort of this item that can be solved. We've got the technology and the ability to do it, but it's not being solved. Why? Well, because if someone solves it, their competitor who doesn't solve it will now have all of the market share for that attention. It's That's the fact of the matter.
And we just really are at this. Oh, sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to interrupt. If you have more
No, no, no.
to add to
Please.
that, just we're at such an inflection point because now we're starting to find, to have the generations again. I know all three of us can remember, if, to varying amounts, a bit before smartphones, but again, my brother, he was born in 2007. He's 18 now. Like, he's an adult, and the iPhone predates him by a little bit. And now we have kids where that's just how they're growing up. They have no real memory of that. And yeah, so a lot of times it's not their fault. They're just given the iPads, they're given the access. It's expected that they have phones. And we're at such an inflection point where if we don't, unfortunately, it does seem to be changing, at least in some circles, like, returning retro, digital minimalism, those ideas being floated around. Because if they're not brought into this cultural consciousness, upcoming generations, they're not even going to know that there is an alternative. And there is another way to do it. That you can have a phone that's not a smartphone. Like, really, that's one of the core parts of the mission, is just somebody or a large group of people are to be accepted that it doesn't have to be this way, to people who've never experienced anything else. And I think that's the most important part of what we're all doing here, is just making sure people know and accept that there's another option. Like, I remember when I got, technically not my first flip phone, because my first phone was a flip phone, but I was like 10. But when I went back to a flip phone, my girlfriend was like freaked out. And I was like, "What did you? Does this mean you can't text me anymore? Does this mean you can't do this?" We did get married later, a lot later, so I guess it worked out. But having such a negative reaction, like somebody who cared about me, somebody I cared about, having such a negative reaction to, like, "Oh, what you're doing?" It's not like she would have done the same thing if I was like, "Oh, I'm going to work out, I'm going to go, or I'm going to eat better," or all that. Like, wouldn't have the same reaction to that. But something about, a flip phone had such a negative reaction. And I think we have moved past that, because it was a number of years ago now. But the further we can get past that, where people feel negatively about these things, well, instead of, it's just, again, similar to doing anything else for your health, where it's just like if somebody came up and was like, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to try to eat less processed food, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, good for you." Or, "Oh, yeah, I'm coming to get, oh yeah, I'm using a dumb phone, ideally a Sidephone. You'd be like, "Oh yeah, good for you." Yeah, like, that's just a thing you do, to be healthy. And I think if we can, if everybody who's in this sort of sphere, can actually measurably impact sort of the zeitgeist, the public zeitgeist around that, I think that is the core mission, for everybody involved in this.
Well, and you've touched on a number of things there that I think are just spot on, Sebastian. And I think one of them, and maybe just to kind of transition here a little bit, is this idea of they don't know, specifically kids or upcoming generations, they don't know what they don't know. And it's the responsibility of those who do know to let them know. I mean, for example, as a dad, parents, it's huge. I mean, you are rearing the children, you're teaching them everything that they need to know, not just to survive, but also I think that there is a responsibility to teach them things that are dangerous, either in a literal or a more metaphorical way. And when you don't do that, that's kind of on you. We've talked about at the beginning of this, where it was this environment in a lot of ways was thrust upon us, not even against our will. It didn't even get to a point where we could have said yay or nay. It just automatically happened to us. And I think that I am encouraged by what I'm seeing in some of the online. It's so funny that it's online that I'm seeing these communities of people wanting to be less online. But I did want to ask to see both of you guys' takes on, let's say, Sidephone specifically. I think that there's growth in digital minimalism. The quote dumb phone support base is growing. But let's say Sidephone, your specific vision, let's say it takes off. Where would you like to see Sidephone's impact or influence taking society in the next 10, 20 years? What is the end that you would like Sidephone to be part of the means toward?
Sure, I've got some ideas. I so over the last few years, I've lived in many different places. I've just sort of hopped around, and I've basically been living out of a backpack, by choice, and it's something that it's part of my minimalism approach that I like. And I've just been traveling, exploring, and here in and around Toronto, one of the things that I noticed is how rare it is to see people just playing outside, just enjoying the the natural park spaces we have. I think seeing a lot more of that would be a beautiful place to get to with a product like this, because when again you've created the environment for that to be the means to entertain yourself, there'll be so much more of it. It will be less of just staying at home, getting trapped in virtual worlds, which, again, not to name names, but a lot of companies right now are racing to now get you into virtual worlds. Why is that? Because a virtual world can take 100% of your time. It could be your second life. You could be anything you want on it. That's the allure and the promise that they're trying to give you. But the downside of that is there's no time bound. You can be in there 24 hours a day. It could be any weather you want. Switch to a new place that's better at a whim. Um, it's kind of scary, and I think the alternative to that is to make the real world the utopia that the games are promising to be. So that, I think, would be the beautiful vision for Sidephone and what the world would look like with it. I think Sebastian had mentioned augmentation a lot, and that's something that really, really resonates with me, because I think that AR is a space that I would want to personally be involved in, as opposed to VR, because I think that all of our efforts as humans should be to consciously make the world that we're currently in, our current reality, the best possible place it can be. It would be a shame to say, wow, we really messed up this world. It's okay. Let's just build a better one on the computer and just be in there. I think again, we're at the inflection point where we can make that change, and it would be beautiful if Sidephone started that movement and created the environment for that to happen. And just generally, people having more of a community focus and lens. I think because of the internet, we've had this interpretation that we can make friends with everyone around the world, and there's beauty in that. There's beauty in being able to contact someone from. I mean, personally, we've spent the last month talking to dozens of people in China and Shenzhen that we wouldn't have ever been able to do in the history of mankind. So internet has been a very beautiful tool for us in that regard. But in terms of friendships and nurturing great communities, there's so much more to be done in the local sphere that I think we would want to help to promote. It's creating the environment. Sebastian, you talked about this earlier too. It's almost like at the end of this call, beautifully everything's starting to click together. But a lot of people sort of turn to their devices because they might be bored, because they might not have an alternative. By being more involved locally, you're more aware of the things that you could be doing. You might have more opportunities for friends and people to pull you into activities that you can then do that make you forget having a phone completely. It's just not even in your mind. You're just doing better things, and you're contributing to what is around you. It's my long-winded answer.
I think it's great. I think a term that I don't know if anyone else has coined this, but I just was thinking about it, Chris, as you were describing that, this connected isolation, where people, they feel connected, but really they know deep down that they are isolated, specifically talking about the lack of real world local connection in favor of exclusive virtual connection.
Well, what we're going to find very soon too, again, it almost sounds like a horror film, but a lot of that virtual connection, that friendship you might have online, that actually might be AI. That might not even be a person. Those people you're speaking to in certain communities, those images you're looking at. What's real is what's around you, your community, your friends, your family. Nurture those relationships and strengthen those. That, I think, is super powerful. And Sebastian, curious to know what you think as well.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to say anything better than what you said, Chris. I really
So,
think you encompassed it. You encompassed it perfectly. But yeah, if I were to think a couple decades from now, yeah, I mean, just building off what Chris said, I would like it if all the just the sheer insanity of what the digital world has become, and just how ingrained it has become in our lives. If if like when I'm an old man, all that just kind of feels like a bad dream. that would be a good place to be. Not that we're still not using the internet, now we're not using these tools, but it's like I've used this example before. I know at least in conversations with Chris, but there was a long period of time where we didn't have seatbelts, and a lot of people died. They didn't have to. They just we lost a lot of people that just simply didn't have to, because there wasn't a realization that, oh, you can't just get in a metal box and go a certain speed. Like bad things will happen if that happens. And now, if some people don't wear seatbelts, but almost everybody does, and they've gotten so much better, so much nicer, and you don't even think about it. You don't even think about it anymore. You're living a better life, a safer life. It's not even really restrictive anymore. Seatbelts are nice. And not that Sidephone is just, again, restrictive. We want to free people up, but that idea of, oh, there was having the time we're in now be seen as a sort of pre-seatbelt era where, oh, that was a unnecessarily dangerous time, in this particular sector, in this particular sphere. If Sidephone could be the facilitator, where, at least for my kids, it's like, oh, yeah, it's so weird that you just had the internet on your phone unrestricted in that way. Like, that's insane to think about now. Not that I'm typically in favor of more restrictions in general, all that type of thing, but I do think on things like that, again, I mentioned I ride motorcycles. I don't do it without a helmet because that would be stupid. And some people do, but having that sort of cultural consciousness around phones, and actually just having it be so ingrained that is the default, and it's weird to look back on this era. If that could be accomplished, and if I could have any help, be a part of that in any way, shape, or form, I mean, that would be my life's work. That would be all I was put here to do. I think that would be enough. And yeah, just that whole idea. And like what Chris said, I know there's not to get too esoteric about it, but I know I read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, founder of Nike, and he had several very interesting experiences. But one of them, when he was, I think, in India, and there was, from one of the Indian religions, I don't want to say the wrong one, but there was a sort of proverb, lead me from the real to the unreal. And I kind of like an idea of flipping that on its head, where it's lead me from the unreal to the real, like going back, like Chris said, to the real. That all the internet stuff, because it's not real, and not that we can't get value from it, but just the internet isn't real in a lot of ways. You can connect with real people through it, but the internet itself is not a place. It is a tool, and we're treating it like a place. And I would love it. It would be fantastic if everybody could sort of wake up to that. It's not a place. We can go there, we can do things with it, but it's not our home. That's not where we are. That's not where we're supposed to be. And if Sidephone could be a returning retro, that could be the catalyst for sort of mass realization of that. That I would love to see that. I would love to see that in years to come.
The connections are real, but they're not real. They're a different kind of connection. And I think that is so profound, Sebastian, what you just hit on there. And also, I wanted, Chris, and I know you've got some stuff you want to say, this idea of augmenting versus virtual. I think this is really a really cool concept of taking the real and enhancing it as opposed to replacing it. This is a really interesting. I had never viewed it that way before until you guys just kind of walked me through that there. But it's so true that the augmented reality I hadn't ever really seen the use for, but now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what an awesome concept of taking real life and using the tools that we have to make them better, instead of what we've kind of seen up to this point from, say, I don't know, 2009, 2010 until today in 2025, where it's that virtual, that replacement has been emphasized instead of that bettering of the real.
Everything that was said just now is so profound that I just want to pause and think about it. It's incredible. Sebastian, your comment on seatbelts, it's absolutely incredible, and it would be an honor to be part of a product, a movement that has seatbelts, smoke alarms, and side phones all in the same category. It makes sense. It's the sensible thing to do. That would be incredible.
Before we get wrapping things up, tell the folks, where can they learn more about Sidephone? What resources do you have out there for them to be engaged? I mean, I haven't seen an application. I'll be the first one to sign up for it, I'll tell you that much. But I think there is a newsletter currently. Walk us through what ways people can get in touch or stay in touch with the project.
We have the last few weeks been been silent, honestly, for lack of a better term. We've been focused on starting the manufacturing of the device, which we're super excited about. And I genuinely think, Jake, maybe in a few weeks' time, maybe sooner, we have another call like this, and we actually show you the physical manifestation of all of the conversation we've just had now, and we go through what the device will look like, and chat about it, chat about the motivations behind it.
You're giving me chills, Chris.
Yeah, that would be super cool. It would be amazing. And honestly, in terms of communications, Sebastian and I, we do think that another message to the community is due very soon. We would probably put that on Reddit. Reddit is the main channel that we use for public communication. We also have our newsletter as well, the wait list that we've created. But we're very mindful in the messages that go out. And genuinely, I think the next message we share is probably going to be the production device that we're releasing, and more specifically, how we intend to release it. Because it's actively a conversation right now. We've had multiple people reach out to us saying that they want to help us with doing a Kickstarter for it. That's one avenue we've considered. We've, of course, considered the avenue of just saying, hey, we're going to make a limited amount of devices, and we're going to work with a select group of people around the world to make the best possible device so that next year we can scale. It's still in the works, and within the next few weeks, we will find the answers to this.
Yeah, and the two places to kind of get a hold of that information are going to be the r/Sidephone subreddit, and then sidephone.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there, and there's some tentative information on the website. I don't think it's been. It will, like Chris was saying, it will be updated soon. With all the. I'm super excited for us to show it to the world once things get finalized. All the specs and all the information and the new design and all that's coming out. That'll be in both those places.
For sure.
Cool. Well, guys, any parting remarks? Anything you didn't quite get to say about Sidephone that you'd like to, or even your own journeys of again, I keep throwing these plugs out for returning retro, but in you guys' cases, it's more of almost a pilgrimage to retro.
I like the way you put that. Yeah, that's fun. That's a fun way to think about it. I guess it has been in a lot of ways. It's a return to something we barely were. It's a return to a place we haven't been that much in this life, type of thing. But yeah, I don't know, Chris. Did you have anything you wanted to say or add?
Not on my end. I'm sure this is the first of many conversations. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is so helpful for me personally. I've always had a crippling fear of, honestly, it sounds embarrassing, but Zoom calls and podcasts. The thought of it just makes me so nervous and anxious. So you've helped me a lot in this call and in this journey, Jake. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks guys for coming on. For the viewers, this has been the Sidephone team. I am so grateful for them coming on and introducing the project to us and giving me the ability to have this conversation at a little bit of a larger scale. So thanks to them. I'll go ahead. I'll put links that Sebastian had mentioned, the subreddit as well as their website in the description. But yeah, more to come. Thanks, everyone.